Hi everybody, this is Karak from AngryCentaurgaming. First, I want to say thank you to the poster that said I should check out Master Chief Collection. I had forgotten, I've had it for a while, and I wanted to get to it. I appreciate you taking away the little sleep that I would have got, and I'm going to go ahead and do a review here. And for people who don't want to watch the entire review and just want to see what I'm going to say, I'm going to, plain and simple, tell you right now, it's the first game I've ever said that not only should people not buy, but they really shouldn't even check out right away. And the reason is because even though Unity had bugs, and, it made that game a little unfun at times. Unity was finishable by everybody pretty much all the time. However, Master Chief's game saves don't even work sometimes. So at this point, I really do say this is a do not finish. I'm going to break the game down for you, graphics, sound, all that stuff. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to skip this video and pop out, it's fine. I'm cool with that. I don't really hold it against you because, frankly, that's the way I felt when I was playing the game, is I just wanted to turn it off. So, jumping straight into it, graphics. The cool thing about the graphics here and what they've done with Master Chief is they've decided that 60 frames a second is what they're going to promise, and they've really not done that. They've done a really good job of making sure everybody realizes just how piss poor this port is. It's hilariously bad. So, you have 1 and 2 of the Halo series, which have undergone the Anniversary Edition update, and what that means is new geometry, new graphics, and the ability to switch back and forth between the two like you're some kind of schizophrenic. I'm not really thinking most people will do that, but it becomes a gameplay advantage to play in the older version because that runs at about 60 frames per second. In the CE version, you turn that on, you turn on the new graphics, and you spin around or you do anything, and the judder that pops up is it's just incredible. Obviously, it's a variable frame rate, and if you're a person who's susceptible to getting ill from variable frame rates, you're going to get ill in number 1. I've had people who said, man, I was never ill, never got sick playing a Halo game until I've played this new version of Halo 1. Not the 360 Anniversary Edition, which didn't seem to have this issue. This version in particular has this issue. It's got a judder that is crazy. It's like fucking Reality. Just sat back and was like, hey, what's up? What's going on, guys? I'm just going to stop for a second and have a drink. Oh, no, I'll go. Okay, I'll stop. No, I'll go. I'll stop. No, I'll go. I'll stop. You can't figure out what's going on. The graphics, it just stops and starts and stops and starts and stops and starts. And it's not only just variable, it's that judder that I think is what's making so many people say that they're feeling slightly ill. The problem is, Halo Anniversary Edition number 1 looks great. Right? It looks awesome. It's got this extra geometry. Everything looks good. However, there's 2 things I noticed. Despite everything looking good, one, the colored lighting that they've added has actually made it difficult for you to see items within the grass or upon the ground or dropped items. The reason why that is because if you don't understand what colored lighting is, and many people don't, it basically, it sort of filters out and adds color to specific items. So if you're in an area that's majorly blue and a guy drops a blue weapon, it's a little bit harder to see. So when you switch to the older version of Halo, you actually are able to pick up items and see items far more clearly than you are in this Championship Edition. And though it looks better, that is actually on Legendary, I can tell you right now, it's actually a killer. You can actually die from it. It's caused me to die multiple times because I couldn't see. You actually cannot see things as easily, and especially when you're moving super fast and there's judder and frame rate issues. But I will say that it looks really, it does look good. The other thing I noticed when I was playing it was that overall, it's not the jump from the Anniversary Edition on the 360 that you would expect, though there's a higher frame rate sometimes and a higher resolution. I actually say if I was going to play between the two, I would actually probably play the 360 version just because it didn't seem like they went as wild, or there's just something about it that was easier to discern while I was playing than this new version. I'm not saying it looks better, by the way. I'm just saying I would rather probably play it. Now, when it comes to number 2, there's some really oddness going here. Number 2, at times dropped to 3 frames per second. For anybody who needs math, that's 57 frames per second, less than the 60 they promised. It is crazy bad frame rate drops in that game. However, its overall average seems higher than the Anniversary Edition for number 1. So when you're playing number 2, there's a little bit less judder, it's a little bit smoother, and then suddenly the entire world falls apart and fucking Reality just takes a smoke break. That does happen. In number 2, also, there's far more animation glitches, and I don't remember number 2 on the Xbox or on the PC, because you could play it on Vista, having these kind of animation errors. For example, I thought it was really cool that they thought it would be a good idea to have one of my own teammates stand on my head for like 45 seconds. People were getting stuck in walls. There was a guy who just, not a guy, multiple guys who just ignored steps. They would walk straight out and then drop. Or they would go down. You realize they were a good 7 feet off the steps. That kind of stuff was crazy. I didn't see it in 2. I still have 2. I went back and turned on 2 on my Xbox, and that didn't happen in the same space. So there's some issues there graphically. Also, the split screen is abysmal in both. It's playable, but it's not fun at all. And I suggest that if anybody really wants these games for split screen, they wait. Now, when you jump to number 3, they just upped the graphics, and they basically, instead of adding geometry, they added resolution, and that's it. Now, that causes 3 issues, or it brings up 3 issues. A couple good, a couple bad. Number 1. The resolution's higher, everything's clear. Number 2, things aren't as complex geometry-wise as 1 and 2 anniversary editions, which is weird feeling. So you go from very busy 1 and 2 to a more clean-cut, aesthetic, lean game in number 3, because it doesn't get the anniversary edition. They're not adding a bunch of extra geometry and stuff like that. And it's this odd, weird feeling where the effects are better, but some of the places look leaner and cleaner. Now, the cool thing is you're jumping into 4. 4 continues that anyway. So 3 to 4, the bump isn't like noticeable. 2 to 3, the drop and bump is noticeable. Now with 3, it runs really well. It seemed to run at the 60 frames per second, or didn't have as many dips that I could tell. Digital Foundry or something like that where they're counting frames. I count frames, but I didn't get a chance much to last night. They could probably, you can check their website and you can see which ones they think are the best or the worst or blah, blah, blah. And then you go to number 4. Now, number 4, they really cleaned up the graphics in number 4. They went with a far more clinical feel to it. The enemies, everything a little bit more robotic. Many people didn't like that. I loved it. I thought it was a cool switch up. I also like all the old characters. I love the Flood. I love all the old characters from the other Halos, but I also like these new guys. And so number 4 seemed to just perform fairly poorly in the frame rate department at all times. There was just always a hitch in the frame rate. And it's too bad, because that game actually looks really good, and I really wish they had poked a hole in there wherever the little paper was that said what frame rate they were going to, and they put a hole in 30 and said skip 60, because that's where the issue is. Or poked a hole in the release date and said next year, because that's really what this is pointing, sort of all pointing towards, is just how poorly optimized and done this game is, how poorly done it is. And it's not done. So graphically, I would say all the games suffer tremendously at different points. Their split screen suffers tremendously at different points. And graphically, at times, though amazing, the plain and simple fact is I don't feel that it's graphically worth what we're seeing from these games. So then it comes to sound, music, and voice. Now, I think everybody understands that, these games had some big separation in time frames. What they probably don't understand is that, especially between 1 and 2, there were a lot of advances in sound. And then again, I believe it was between 2 and 3. Not 3 and 4, but 2 and 3. And so in number 1, you get this ethereal sound to it. It's very cool. You get, not even talking about the music right now, guys. I'm talking about the sound, the guns, the airy sound of everything. It's got a really cool sound to it, but there's actually a missing low end that I never really realized, that you sort of have to create on your own with some adjustments on your system, because running a flat system, I can see where the sounds are happening, where that grenade hits, and they're missing just a little bit. Then you jump to 2, and I gotta say, man, the sound work in 2, you have a couple more actual ballistics weapons versus lasers in 2 that you can play around with. Man, those are sweet sounding. I mean, that just bang, bang, bang from that gun, it's just popping, it's hitting hard. You're in the streets and you just, bah, 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 you can hear that. It's much more Call of Duty sounding with real guns than it is Halo. Now, people can dislike that. I like it because they didn't drop the Halo guns. They just added more kinetic guns, and you can hear those. Nothing wrong with that. So there's just more to that sound envelope. There's also a little bit more what I consider ambient sound. The echo seems to be done a little bit better. There's more playing around that they did, where they have the outside the space station area, where they sort of, this is what space would sound like, which we don't know if that would be what it sounded like, but they did a good job. Those are fun to play. So audio-wise, I think the sound for 2 is really good. 3, the sound is good. And there's some changes to the overall spectrum of where those different sounds occur, and the surround mix seems better. It seems cleaner. So I really like 3 as well. 4, I think, is probably the best. Now, 4 is probably the best because they were able to go out and, all the technology from 1 to 2, it's really not a fair game when you consider it. And I'm not comparing them to each other to in any way say one is better than the other. I'm just pointing out that as the years progressed, you had different things occurring with sound technology. A lot of people see graphics technology, but they don't understand sound technology changed as well. So you have number 4, just a really clean sound, really clean aesthetic. Everything hits where it's supposed to. There's a couple crashes and cutscenes and a couple moments that I felt really didn't have the low-end resonance that I wanted, but overall, I would say it was good. So, as a sound package, all of them are good. You just have to remember that there were some jumps in technology and how things were put together and just the overall fidelity between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, and somewhat between 3 and 4. So, that's the sound in a nutshell. Very good. I liked it. Now, when it comes to music, let's be honest, I don't think it's going to take long. You either love Halo music or you hate it. Most of the time, that's how it goes. Plain and simple, nothing's changed. The Halo music is that ethereal sound. 4 is slightly different than the others, but still, I loved it. You have just an overall different kind of sound. If you like it, you're going to like it here. It's the same. There's not much to break down. It's dynamic, and it hits when it's supposed to, and it changes up when it's supposed to. The cutscenes are cinematic. They're over the top with music. There's a patriotic feeling to much of it, and a very cool somber feeling, like when the Flood are introduced in number 1, or in number 2 when you find the bomb and you jump on it and you try to go and take it to the Covenant ships. So overall, and 4, jump into 4 for a second, 4 has a very cool overall feel to it because it is more futuristic. There's even some dot drops, like some 8-bit sounds that I swear to God are like beep, 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 like that kind of thing, which it's funny because it's not in your face, but it's there, and it's some people, especially my age, who remember music like that, remember 16-bit music or 8-bit music. It sort of connects you to this digital world that's in 4, this overall Tron look. So really liked it. Now when it comes to voices, dude, let's be honest, it's got really good voices. I have always felt that the voices fit in Halo for everybody. The Arbiter is great. Master Chief, he sounds awesome. Cortana sounds awesome. You have Hellboy in number 2 as the commander. I call him Hellboy, sorry. He's awesome in number 2. He's got such a cool gravelly voice. So overall, the voices, they've stuck with him. Very good. I loved them. Now, we're going to jump into gameplay, because gameplay is the biggest thing. The first thing we're going to cover is bugs, because bugs basically dominate the gameplay here. First of all, it crashed 37 times. 37 times. I just want to make sure everybody understands. That is just a year or two under my actual age. So I had a crash for every year I was alive. It just crashed constantly. It crashed in the menus. It crashed when I was searching for multiplayer games. It crashed when I was going between missions in single player games. It crashed while it was sitting there. Guys, while it was sitting there, it crashed. That'd be like your best friend just having a stroke sitting there. It just crashed whenever it wanted. It crashed all the motherfucking time. And I'm not the only one seeing this. I've looked online. It's crashed all the time. Here's the thing, though. I played 12 hours, 12, across 3 Xbox Ones. I played, it's probably, I would say, probably 10, 12 hours. Or had it on and was doing recording that time. It crashed that many times. I'm sorry, you cannot tell me that people who reviewed this and gave it a score didn't notice that. It's impossible. And it crashed on multiple Xboxes. This was multiple people who have it, and we're jumping around. This is not some issue where it's one Xbox. Sorry. This thing is a fucking unstable mess. So, bugs. That's where it starts, crashing. Moving on, there's a bug list, and I want to read to you some of these incredibly awesome bug lists that I've heard, such as not being able to move. Maps don't appear. Users are unable to move or turn when displaying the player list and score in Halo 2. They say that's low. I actually think that's high. Severe audio performance issues in Halo Anniversary Campaign, which I didn't even notice. Matchmaking. Infinite searching for matchmaking. Now, we're going to cover multiplayer in a second, but I want to say that there is something going on within Halo Master Chief Edition collection where something is happening when you're searching for data. And the reason why I say that is when you're loading levels, when you're loading save games, and when you're loading and looking for things in the matchmaking, and in multiplayer it crashes. It has issues during all those. Something severe is going on under the hood. And the problem is this is a UI that actually works very well normally. You can pick your missions, your levels, your game. It allows you to do all kinds of skulls. It allows you to pick all kinds of stuff for multiplayer. Loadouts, which I actually like. I know a lot of people didn't like loadouts. I love the fact of switching up loadouts. It allows you to do so much. But there's something between the UI here and the games that's just fucked. It's just fucked. There's a rating called fucked, and that's what it is. It's not working. So there's issues there, bugs. In Anniversary Edition, the original, I had all kinds of different graphical bugs, but I didn't really have any bugs with the AI or anything like that. In 2, I had bugs with the scripting, animation, and AI, but overall, the frame rate was smoother. In number 3, I had the least. In number 3, it seemed to me that it ran the best. It didn't have as many bugs. And in number 4, there were a lower frame rate, but there were some bugs. So 4 is sort of this weird equalization of all the issues. Now, when it comes to gameplay, there's a big switch between all these games. It's something you need to realize. When you have a remaster collection this big, it's going to feel really odd jumping from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 4 to 1, that kind of thing, because sometimes you got shields, then you don't have shields, then you can dual wield, but you can't. Now you can look down the scope and fire, but you can't. There's all this crazy stuff, and you really got to prepare for that. And I would say the gameplay of the Halo games, if you like them, it's there. 60 frames a second does adjust aiming, and it does adjust jumping. It does adjust the gameplay. It really does take a good deal of time to get accustomed to that difference. If you're used to the floatiness of Halo, somebody who plays it all the time like I do, the original, I play on other systems. If you're used to that and accustomed to that, and you jump in here, that 60 frames is going to feel odd for a little while. For example, I've heard people say it feels like I don't jump as high as I used to. No, what really happened is you're probably in the air a little bit longer. You know, it's a little bit floatier. Things took a little bit longer. Overall, I like the jump to 60. I feel that if it was locked at 60, it'd be great, but I do feel they should have just locked it at 30 and said, fuck it, because frankly, they're not hitting it all the time. And what that does is that affects gameplay. It affects your aiming. You can jump between these games at any time and realize that there was really big decisions occurred that you only notice when you play a game one after the other. See, if there's a 2-3 year difference between Halo 1 and 2, well, shit, man, it's been a while since most people played Halo 1. They jump into 2. They can't really remember how it feels, so that adjustment period is a little less because they're relearning things. But if you're jumping like you are in the collection edition, you're not relearning things, man. You're jumping from game to game. That can be disconcerting. There's times where, like, buttons weren't working. I was doing the wrong thing. I had to go into the options. Really cool thing in the options, which they have a ton. They really have taken care of the gamer in that way, where you can switch it so that all the games run on the same overall control scheme, which really does help. Because there are so many differences. The shield in 4, the dual wielding in 2, that's a big difference, man. I mean, it's and no dual wielding in 1. Sorry, that's a huge difference. I mean, there's some pretty big gaps there that you have to fill. Now, when it comes to multiplayer, it's a fucking mess. It's completely unacceptable. There's infinite searching sometimes for multiplayer games. Infinite. You just put it on, nothing happens. Matchmaking doesn't work. The multiplayer as a whole, I would, if somebody asked me to rate it 1 to 10, I would probably rate it a Q, because or an NQ for no quality. It's terrible. The multiplayer, once you get into a game, it's pretty laggy. Sometimes you get a really good game, but the fact is, getting into the game is the issue. The playlists are messed up. There's all kinds of issues with matchmaking. There's all kinds of issues, again, with the infinite searching. Once you get into a game, and they have done some patches and made it slightly better, because luckily, the first time I got to play this, there was no patches, and now there's been a couple, and you can definitely tell there's a little bit of issue there, or a little bit of corrections. Overall, there has been 1 or 2 little fixes, and they keep releasing stuff, but it's more like, hey, can you guys check this out and get back to us? No. It's not the gamer's job to fix your motherfucking game. Sorry. Everybody knows how much of a Halo fan I am. It's probably my favorite first-person shooter, probably always will be. Halo and the Halo series has always been something that's near and dear to my heart as an enjoyable game to play with friends. They have done their best to remove all fun from this version. I suggest you do not buy it. There are so many gameplay issues, so many issues with graphics, so many issues with bugs, that the game is simply unplayable in a long-term process, and expect to win it, get through it, or enjoy it. Lastly, the game saves. The game saves corrupt. in just a short period of time I played, 2 game saves sent me to completely different levels that I hadn't even gone to, and the rest just crashed. They were corrupt. They weren't even working. So overall, I would say the game is not worth getting. As the #1 Halo fan in my group, I have to say that is one of the saddest, things I've ever had to say out loud. But it is overall just a fairly piss poor job at releasing a game, and in all honesty, I would say it is worse than Unity. And I can't believe I'm saying that. It's super depressing that I am. But I wanted to get it out to you guys. I'd been asked about it before, asked about what my thoughts on it were before. I've got some video that I'm going to put up that you'll see playing behind me. If you get a chance, maybe watch some YouTube videos and stuff like that. But I really would say, at the most, guys, gamefly it, man. I cannot, in any good conscience, say that this game is worth a purchase. So this game is just not even worth really rating, other than not to get it yet, or until it's redone. And I just want to say thanks to everybody. We got to 20,000 viewers. I totally appreciate it. We got over that. We shot over that with Unity. You guys have been awesome. It's been great. We made a forum for people to discuss stuff, because a lot of the comments, it's just tit for tat. We've got a forum now that you guys can see in the description. If you want to go and join, it's fine. If you don't, it's where I post videos and where I do more discussion of the industry and stuff like that. It's no push for you guys to do it. You can follow me on Twitter. I always could do with more Twitter fans, because a lot of times I'm asking for people's ideas on what games to review, what not to review, what to check out. Is there something new on the horizon? Is there some new industry news I need to hear about, or that I have heard about and I want to tell people about? So feel free to follow me on Twitter. We will be doing a podcast, so it's taken a while. I might even do a podcast later today. Frankly, I'm pretty depressed about this. These 2 games have shown that there's a real big swing going on in the overall the consumer's role in games. And I'm a person that isn't a paranoid who's always thinking there's an ulterior plan or an ultimate plan. But man, sometimes when you see this kind of stuff between like Unity and Master Chief Collection, I mean, you guys got to realize this is Microsoft. Aside from Gears, this is Microsoft's flagship, and they released it like this. What does that mean, right? What does that mean? It's a question that's probably going to boggle me for a while. So if you liked the video, hit like. If you disliked it, hit dislike. If you want to disagree, post a comment. If you want to agree, post a comment. Whatever. Peace out.